Listen up, my sweet summer children. We all grew up on Disney cartoons, and they lived happily ever after. What a beautiful lie. Walt Disney was a marketing genius, but he was also the biggest censor in history. He took the dark, bloody folk tales of the Brothers Grimm, Charles Perrault, and Hans Christian Andersen, scrubbed off the blood, slapped on some glitter, and sold them to us as bedtime stories. In reality, the originals of these tales are straight-up horror. We're talking Saw meets Game of Thrones. We've got sisters slicing off their own heels, princes who don't exactly kiss sleeping beauties but take advantage of the situation, and mermaids turning into sea foam out of pure grief. These fairy tales weren't written for kids. They were meant for adults as a brutal warning. Life is incredibly harsh, and you really shouldn't go wandering into the woods. Today, armed with some dark comedy and a stiff drink in hand, we're going to uncover the 11 real endings to your favorite stories. Hide your kids from the screens. We are about to ruin your childhood. Let's get into it. Fact number 1. Cinderella, the Bloody Slipper. Let's start with the ultimate girlhood dream, the glass slipper. In the Disney version, the shoe simply doesn't fit the wicked stepsisters. In the Brothers Grimm original, the stepmother is a pragmatist. She hands her eldest daughter a knife and says, "Cut off your big toe. When you're queen, you won't have to walk anyway." The daughter chops off her toe and crams her bleeding foot into the shoe. The prince, who was apparently legally blind, takes her away. But on the ride back, some pigeons snitch on her, singing, "Look, there's blood in the shoe." They turn back. The second sister slices off her heel. Blood again, and the pigeons snitch again. But wait, there's more. At Cinderella's wedding, who, by the way, forgave everyone in the cartoon, those same pigeons peck out the stepsister's eyes. Cinderella gets hitched, and the sisters are left blind and maimed. As we joke back in my hometown, beauty requires sacrifice, but why so literally? It's a lesson that envy and deceit get punished. Brutal and bloody, but fair. Fact number 2, Sleeping Beauty, not exactly a kiss. The most romantic story ever, right? The prince kisses the sleeping princess, and she wakes up. Oh, how sweet. Now here's the 1634 version by the Italian writer Giambattista Basile. A king, who is actually already married, finds the sleeping beauty. He can't wake her up. So what does he do? He doesn't kiss her. He carries her to a bed and has his way with her unconscious body. And then he just leaves and goes back to his wife. 9 months later, the princess, still asleep, gives birth to twins. The babies crawl around looking for milk, and one of them accidentally sucks the poison splinter out of her finger. She wakes up. "Where am I? Whose kids are these?" Then the king casually drops by. "Hey, those are mine." This isn't a fairy tale about true love. It's a literal felony. Disney did us a solid by scrubbing this part. Otherwise, our fragile little minds would have been permanently scarred. Fact number 3, The Little Mermaid, Walking on Knives. In the cartoon, Ariel gives up her voice, gets legs, gets married, and boom, happy ending. Hans Christian Andersen's version was way more tragic. This is a story about pure agony. The sea witch didn't just magically take her voice. She cut out Ariel's tongue. And the legs? The witch warned her, "Every step you take will feel like you're walking on sharp knives." Picture this. The Little Mermaid is dancing for the prince, smiling, while her feet are literally bleeding in agony. And the worst part? The prince marries the other woman. He genuinely thinks the other girl was the one who saved him. The Little Mermaid is given a choice. Stab the prince in the heart on his wedding night and her tail will grow back, or she dies. She looks at her sleeping love, drops the dagger, throws herself into the ocean, and turns into sea foam. It's a story of sacrificial, unrequited love, about how you can give up absolutely everything for a guy, even your life, and he'll just go and marry the girl next door. Major red flag. It's just sad, ladies. Fact number 4, Snow White, the Dance of Death. Disney gave us an evil queen who falls off a cliff, a quick, easy death. The Brothers Grimm were way more twisted. They believed evil should suffer. At the end of the tale, the prince and Snow White get married. The evil stepmother is invited to the wedding. Honestly, why? but they have a little surprise waiting for her. They heat up a pair of iron shoes over burning coals. Using tongs, they force these red-hot shoes onto the queen's feet, and she is forced to dance in these sizzling, scorching iron shoes in front of all the guests until she drops dead. Imagine that for a wedding reception game. Guests sipping wine while the stepmother dances in literal agony. Oh, and at the beginning of the story, the queen doesn't just ask for Snow White's heart, she asks for her liver and lungs. The huntsman brings her boar organs, and the queen boils them with salt and eats them. She's a straight-up cannibal. As they say back home, a mother-in-law might suck your blood, but eating her daughter-in-law's liver with a pinch of salt is too unhinged even for a true crime podcast. Fact number 5. Little Red Riding Hood, no hunters allowed. Let's look at Charles Perrault's version. No lumberjacks, no hunters slicing open the wolf's belly to save Grandma. In the original, the wolf eats Grandma. Then Little Red shows up. The wolf tells her, "Take off your clothes, my child, and get into bed with me." The girl strips, the erotic subtext here was glaringly obvious to adults back then, climbs into bed with Grandma, and the wolf eats her. The end. Roll credits. The moral Perrault tacked on to the end. Pretty young girls shouldn't listen to just anyone. Otherwise, the big bad wolf will eat them up. The wolf is a metaphor for a predator/seducer. The tale teaches you not to go into the woods with strange men, and definitely not to get into bed with them. It was a brutal crash course sex ed lesson for 17th century French girls. Don't be an idiot or you'll get eaten alive. Fact number 6. Rapunzel, tower pregnancy. In the cartoon, Rapunzel and the prince share a platonic love, gazing at floating lanterns. In the original, the prince was sneaking up into her tower every single night for a long time, and they definitely weren't just playing Monopoly up there. One fine day, Rapunzel, who was incredibly naive and didn't know where babies came from, asked the witch, "Mother, why are my dresses getting so tight around my waist? And why are you so heavy to pull up by my braids, but the prince is so light?" The witch caught on immediately. "You wicked child!" She chops off Rapunzel's hair and kicks the pregnant teenager out into the desert, where she gives birth to twins. When the prince climbs up and finds the witch instead of his girl, he jumps out of the tower and gouges his eyes out on a thorn bush. The blind prince and the single mom with 2 kids only reunite in the desert years later. Sure, there's eventually a happy ending. Her tears magically cure his blindness. But only after years of living off the grid in absolute poverty. The harsh truth, unprotected sex in a tower leads to serious eviction problems. Fact number 7. The Frog Prince, wall therapy. Remember how the princess kisses the frog to break the spell? Yeah, modern humanists made that up. In the Grimm brothers' tale, the princess was kind of a savage. The frog annoyed the hell out of her. He was slimy, cold, and demanded to sleep in her bed. When he tried to crawl onto her silk pillows, she absolutely lost it. She grabbed him and yeeted him against the wall with all her might. "Now you'll shut up, you gross little frog." And it was from the concussive force of hitting the drywall, not a kiss, that he transformed into a prince. The moral? Sometimes to turn a guy into a decent human being, you just gotta shake some sense into him, or slam him into a wall. Just kidding, obviously, but the method is intriguing. As the joke goes, if a woman breaks dishes, it brings good luck. If she throws her fiancé against a wall, she's getting married. Fact number 8. Pinocchio, the wooden maniac. Disney's Pinocchio is a sweet, naive little boy who just wants to be a real boy. In Carlo Collodi's book, Pinocchio is a malicious, cruel, selfish little wooden freak. The second Geppetto carved him some legs, Pinocchio kicked him and ran away. The talking cricket, his conscience, tried to talk some sense into him. Do you know what Pinocchio did? He grabbed a mallet, chucked it at the cricket, and killed him. Squashed him dead against the wall. Zero conscience. At the end of the original story, the cat and the fox hang Pinocchio from an oak tree. He dangles in the wind, suffocates, and dies. The end. The publisher later begged Collodi to rewrite the ending because kids were traumatized. But originally it was a book about how disobedient brats meet a bad end. If your kid is acting out, just read them the original. That'll straighten them out real quick. Fact number 9. The Hunchback of Notre Dame, necrophilia. The cartoon about Quasimodo ends with everyone alive, the bad guys punished, and Esmeralda walking off with the handsome Phoebus. Victor Hugo's novel is pure, unadulterated gloom. Phoebus is a toxic womanizer who ditches Esmeralda. Esmeralda gets hanged at the Place de Grève. Quasimodo, completely enraged, throws the priest Frollo off the cathedral tower, and then Quasimodo disappears. Years later, a vault is opened, and they find two skeletons locked in an embrace. One is female, the other has a crooked spine. When they try to pull them apart, they crumble into dust. Quasimodo had crawled to the corpse of his beloved, laid down next to her, and starved to death while holding her. It's an epic love story, but you have to admit that would be way too goth for a kid's movie. Mommy, why are the skeletons hugging? Fact number 10, Peter Pan, child killer. Peter Pan, the boy who never wanted to grow up. Sounds fun, right? Flying, fighting pirates. But in J.M. Barrie's book, there is a genuinely chilling line. The boys on the island vary, of course, in numbers according as they get killed and so on. And when they seem to be growing up, which is against the rules, Peter thins them out. Let that sink in. Thins them out. Peter Pan murdered the Lost Boys when they started getting too old. He was the dictator of Neverland. Growing up was treason. The penalty for treason was death. Captain Hook was probably just the only guy who managed to escape this pint-sized psycho and actually grow up, even though it cost him a hand. In psychology, there's something called the Peter Pan syndrome for men who refuse to take responsibility. But in the book, he's a literal knife-wielding psychopath. Sweet dreams. Fact number 11, Pocahontas, the real story. And finally, a historical true story that became a Disney fairy tale. Pocahontas and John Smith. A romance between two worlds, right? In reality, Pocahontas was about 10 or 12 years old when the English arrived. John Smith was 27. There was absolutely no romance between them, nor could there be. She did save him, though historians still debate whether it was just a staged tribal ritual. Later, the English kidnapped her, held her hostage, baptized her under the name Rebecca, and married her off to a totally different guy, John Rolfe. She was paraded around England as a curiosity at court. She died at age 21, from smallpox or tuberculosis in a foreign land, never to see her home again. It's the tragedy of a child whose life was ground to dust by the gears of colonization. Disney painted a pretty picture, but the truth is always much more bitter. So there you have it, folks. Why were the originals so terrifying? Because back then, the world was terrifying. They had to prepare kids for pain, for loss, and to understand that the woods are full of wolves, not singing chipmunks. Disney gave us hope. He taught us to believe in magic, and that's a good thing. We need to believe that Cinderella gets to be a princess instead of an amputee. But sometimes it's good to know the truth, to take off the rose-colored glasses and realize that a happy ending isn't a gift from the universe. It's the result of hard work. And sometimes it's knowing exactly when to yeet a frog against a wall. Drop a comment below. Which fairy tale shocked you the most? For me, Pinocchio the Hitman is hands down number 1. Smash that like button if you made it to adulthood with your sanity intact, and don't forget to subscribe. Next time, we're talking about cheating. Why do we do it? Is it biology or just bad behavior? It's gonna be spicy. Catch you later.